I, for the longest time, had a show I created and produced called Let's Talk Dreams. It was a weekly animated show that was hosted by this channel's mascot. In this show, Red would go through various assets created by artists and give stats on how costly they would be to use, as well as some scenarios in which you could use them. This show ran for about 3 seasons, at about 10 episodes per season, give or take. And with each new season, we would add new segments like interviews, the help billboard, weekly news on dreams, and so on. But as Media Molecule announced that they would be leaving dreams behind, I decided that the show was just no longer viable. With the player base leaving at an exponential rate, there was no justifiable way to keep making the show because it just took too long and the player base just wasn't there to watch it. However, I for the longest time have been itching to make something new. A new show that could live on YouTube and continue the format, and allow you to get to know Red a little bit better. So I have officially decided that I will be venturing down creating a new animated show for YouTube. The only difference is, it can't be in the same quality that it was before. The show was good, but it wasn't great. It was okay for dreams, but to stand out on YouTube against so many other high quality productions, because let's be honest, YouTube has changed from just people making videos talking to the camera. That works for certain creators that have been solidified in that, who have a fan base, but for new channels such as myself, not a lot of people, or not a lot of newer people, want to really just sit and watch someone talk. They want high quality, high performance sort of stuff. So we need to make Red so much more visually appealing. We need him to feel alive. As much as it is just an animated show, we want him to feel like he is a literal breathing character that feels real and feels like he actually does have this show in our world. And to do that, we just have to make some small changes. Things that you wouldn't necessarily think are a big deal until you don't notice it, and then it changes everything. So let's take a look at the puppet and I'll show you how I changed some of the fundamentals about him so that he feels more alive. Okay, so this is a bit of a behind the scenes look at the old show Let's Talk Dreams that was made a long time ago. Now, if we look at Red here, we can see how he moves. It's very kind of static. It's very kind of hands are here, then they're here, then they're here, that sort of thing. His eyes do change and express emotion, but they don't necessarily feel like they're his eyes. They feel like they're just being keyframed to be different things. Similar to his mouth doesn't necessarily move to the shape of someone actually talking. And one of the biggest things I would say is his body isn't moving. There's no breathing going on. There's no emotion outside of the obvious hands being moved, that sort of thing. And of course, one of the biggest differences, he doesn't have his red hair outline. That's something I really want for the new one, as trying to explain to people that he has red hair but not being able to visually show it is frustrating. So we managed to get him that red outline. It's very faint. That's a limitation of dreams, unfortunately, but it is there. Now, let's actually take a look at how he's animated now. So you'll see in his eyes that his eyes are now the animation is now elongated so that you can see the closure of his eyes. It goes from full eye to half eye to then the closed variation, which is nice. He also has breathing. You'll see his chest will go in and out. This is a very small thing, but when you're looking at something, especially if you're looking at something stationary for a long time, you start to pick out things that seem uncanny. And him not breathing is a big thing. So I've added breathing for his chest so that he'll now breathe as he talks. You won't notice it, but you would notice it if it wasn't there, if you were looking at it. See, the idea behind this is that I'm adding a bunch of stuff that if it wasn't there, you'd go, right, okay, so he doesn't really breathe, he's very static, that sort of thing. We want him to feel a lot more dynamic, so that if he's breathing and his eyes feel a bit more animated, that starts to kind of hone in and kind of show that he is real. Now, I went and done an interview with Red a couple of months ago at this point, and this is actually where I learned a lot of the stuff that kind of made him feel alive. He has to have this kind of natural sway to him, because no one just sits there perfectly still, especially when some of the stuff he'll do an animation and stuff like that, but if he just goes and does this and then right back here stationary, it feels awkward, it feels weird. You might not notice it, but if you're watching something for a lengthy amount of time, you will notice it. So we started to give him a wee bit of a natural sway, ever so slightly. He's not jumping from side to side, but it's enough to kind of make him feel like he's constantly moving. Another thing that I thought was very important is the eyes. Your eyes are constantly moving. No matter how much you just stare at something, if you keep staring at it, eventually your eyes will even move to slight to the right, to the left, up, down of that thing that you're looking at. And that's something that we added here. You'll notice that when he's talking, especially when he's looking directly towards the camera, his eyes are kind of looking around. He's not necessarily just deadpanning you the entire time, and that's something that's very important about making him feel so much more alive. And finally, one of the last things that I wanted to change, this is still a work in order, a work in progress, sorry, is that his mouth, when his mouth moved before, imagine a ball, right? And a hole just constantly opening in the ball, but the ball never changed shape. A hole just constantly opened and closed in it. That's how Red used to be. Now, I've kind of elongated his jaw so that when he speaks, his jaw will slightly dip so that it looks like his face shape is changing when his mouth opens. And again, this is just something that we've added to make it a bit more interesting. I'm not 100% set on these mouths. I'll be honest, I have struggled for the longest time to be okay with Red having a mouth. I know that sounds weird, I just think sometimes he looks quite strange with a mouth, and I have never really managed to get him to a place where I am happy with his mouth on his face, because he starts to look too different, almost uncanny for me, but that's because I see him all the time. I'm constantly working with a Red model, so that's something I just need to get out of the habit of. And of course, I'm sure you've been wondering, what is the animated talk show even going to be about? Well, I don't know. I've got a big whiteboard right off screen that has 1,001 ideas that I'm trying to work through. I don't necessarily know what it's going to be about, but it will feature predominantly Red, and we'll maybe have a few different themes throughout. The only thing that I can say that it might feature is more game development sided stuff. That's mainly because this channel was created, 1, to show off Red, 2, to document my game development journey on making Paper Red. So if the show does kind of follow that suit, that's cool. But, you know, if you have any ideas, I'm also good for that. But yeah, I hope you're excited about it. I am too. I can't wait to share more. I can't wait to share the first episode when it comes out. And instead of asking you to like and subscribe, how about this? Let's do rock, paper, scissors, right? So 1, 2, 3, go. If I win, you sub to the channel. If I lose, well, you know, pat yourself on the back, I don't know. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Did you pick paper? If you pick paper, you have to sub. If you pick rock, I mean, why don't you just subscribe anyway? I'm making some cool stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.